Around 2300 BCE, cities ruled the world. Then a man without a city conquered them all. History calls this progress. It was something else entirely. On this channel, we tell the long stories behind short moments, not legends, not slogans, but the systems, pressures, and decisions that quietly reshape the world. This is one of those stories. This isn't just about the Akkadian conquests. It's about why independent cities stopped being enough. Why, after this moment, history never returned to small, equal rivals again. And why empire once created proved almost impossible to unlearn. Before Akkad there was Sumer. Southern Mesopotamia was a landscape of canals and walls. Dozens of city-states pressed tightly together. Your Uruk, Lagash, Kish. Each was independent. Each had its own god, its own king, its own army. And each believed the world ended at its walls. These cities were not primitive. They were advanced, literate, bureaucratic, and wealthy. They recorded grain rations on clay tablets. They built temples that dominated the horizon. They fought wars that followed ritual calendars and negotiated endings. But they shared a weakness. They were designed to compete, not to coordinate. When one city grew strong, its neighbors formed coalitions. When a ruler pushed too far, alliances formed against him. Power rose, power fell, and the balance returned. For centuries, this system worked. Then pressure began to accumulate. Population increased. Trade networks stretched farther. Climate instability made harvests unreliable. Competition for water intensified. Wars became less ceremonial. Victories had to last longer. And leadership required something new. Not just bravery, not just divine favor, but administration, endurance, and control beyond a single city. This was the environment into which ACT emerged, not as a city-state, but as an answer to a problem no city-state could solve. The traditional story begins with Sargon, an outsider, a cupbearer, a usurper, but focusing on Sargon alone misses the turning point. The real shift was not who ruled, it was how power was organized. Sargon did not simply defeat rival kings. He dismantled the assumption that cities ruled themselves. Instead of destroying conquered cities, he absorbed them. Instead of replacing local gods, he linked them. Instead of ruling from one center, he imposed a network. This was the moment Mesopotamia crossed a line. For the first time, victory did not end with tribute. It ended with permanent control. Governors were installed, taxes standardized, troops stationed far from home. The conquest of Sumer was not fast because it was reckless. It was fast because it was systematic. And once the system existed, resistance became fragmented by design. This approach carried enormous risk. An empire stretches supply lines. It multiplies enemies. It forces decisions at distances no ruler can personally oversee. Every conquered city became both an asset and a liability. If one rebelled, others might follow. If armies marched too far, logistics would collapse. If governors grew ambitious, the center could fracture. The Akkadian solution was discipline, not emotional leadership, not constant warfare, restraint. Military campaigns were timed to agricultural cycles. Troops were fed by pre-planned grain routes. Rebellions were met with force, but only enough to restore order. Even ideology was managed. Sargon did not claim to abolish local identities. He claimed to protect them under a higher order. His authority was framed not as personal greatness, but as inevitability. The gods had aligned, the roads connected. The system now existed. And once it existed, opting out became impossible. The Akkadian Empire did not last forever. But it lasted long enough. Cities that once negotiated as equals now reported upward. Warfare shifted from seasonal clashes to strategic campaigns. Administration became as important as combat. This worked because it reduced uncertainty. Merchants could travel farther under imperial protection. Officials could rely on standardized measures. Armies could mobilize without renegotiating loyalty every generation. The empire functioned not because everyone supported it, but because dismantling it required coordination the old system could no longer produce. Even when rebellions erupted, they were fighting an idea that had already won. Central authority, permanent control, scale. The Akkadians proved it could be done, and that proof could not be erased. After Akkad, no ruler forgot the lesson. Later empires studied its structure. Assyria refined it. Babylon codified it. Persia expanded it. Even when the Akkadian Empire collapsed, its logic survived. Cities were no longer the highest political unit. They became components. Power now meant logistics, records, delegation. History shifted from heroic battles to administrative endurance. Empires would rise and fall for the next 4,000 years, but none would return to a world of truly equal city-states. The Akkadian conquests did not just change borders, they changed expectations. They taught humanity what was possible and what could no longer be undone. The first empire was not inevitable, but once it existed, empire itself became inevitable. That is the quiet force of the Akkadian Wars, not glory, not legend, but permanence. If you want to understand how power really works, this is where the pattern begins. If you found value in this story, support the channel by liking the video and subscribing, and tell us in the comments, what forgotten turning point in history should we explore next?